Let's start with some prayer, and then we'll welcome, everybody for the YouTube video thing, and have Tim share the screen, right? Okay. Abba, Father, we do thank you and praise you for saving us, for calling us, for joining us. And Father, we thank you that you have made us to be interested in your times and your seasons and your word of life. And it is life to us. We thank you, Father, for the season that we're in right now, and we ask that you would guide us through it, that on Shavuot we would present an offering that's acceptable to you. Not only would we hear your voice, but that we would present ourselves fresh and new. And Father, we ask that you guide Tim this evening as he shares your calendar, as he shares Tekufah, and as he shares what you have for him. And Father, I pray that we would have a willing spirit to lay down what we think we know long enough to receive what we haven't been given yet. And we give you the praise, the honor, and the glory for putting this together, and for those that are here this evening. We pray for those that are not here, that you would bless them. And we just give you the thanks, the honor, and the glory in Yahushua's name, our Messiah. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Here we go. Oh, we're already recording. All right. It must have been automatically recording. Okay. All right. Hello and welcome to Covenant Calendar Club. We're glad that you're here and that you are with us this evening. And so we just want to give you a real big shout out and say hello.
Hello, everyone.
Tonight's call is recorded.
Hello.
So if those of you that don't want to be seen on the screen, please go ahead and turn off your screen. Otherwise, someone might see your beautiful face. And so we're going to go ahead and start our evening. Give the computer over to Tim and Jeanette.
Shalom, everyone. Glad to be back. Glad to start up on Covenant Calendar Club once again. We had an absolutely fabulous face-off. Thoroughly enjoyed it. We were very, very, very blessed. What's incredible is when you see new faces that are just lapping up the information like a sponge. They're just interested. They want to know. They don't care what it is as long as it's truth. They want to know. And that is so precious. It really, really is. Tonight we're going to do the Tequfah Unveiled. And the Tekufah is the Equinox. And the purpose of this PowerPoint is to get you so you'll know exactly what a Tekufah is and where it's located in the scriptures. So if somebody asks you, well, where do you find that? Well, you'll be able to, I'm going to show you the scriptures, and you'll be able to go back to this PowerPoint, and you'll be able to point to people and say, this is where it is in the scriptures. This is Yahuwah's definition of a circuit in the sky which stops the old year and starts the new year according to the Matzeroth. So I'm hoping you'll be able to understand this. And Charlene has told me I got to slow down because I go too fast. So she's my PowerPoint, please. Eh? Okay, I'm going to try share a screen here, and we'll see if we can get going. Can you see it?
Yes, yes, yes. There it is. Looking good.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, scary. That's just to get your attention. Tequfah Unveiled. What on earth is a Tequfah? The Tekufah is actually a celestial event designed by Yahuwah as a sign for determining time. And you'll note that I emphasized sign there because that is extremely important. We're going to be looking more at that later. The Tekufah does not rely solely on a single orb, but is a combination of multiple identities in the vast Shemayim. A Tekufah is known in English as an equinox. There are two Tekufah within 1 year. The first event is the spring Tequfah, which occurs on either March 19, 20, or 21 on the Gregorian calendar. The dates being used here are calculated from the Universal Coordinated Time Zone. These dates need to be adjusted according to the location of where one lives on this earth. More about the UTC later in this presentation. The most common date is the 20th, then the 21st, and more rarely the 19th of March. The autumn Tekufah occurs on and around September 23 on the Gregorian calendar. The Tekufah is very commonly mistaken as the equilux, and we're going to hear a little bit more about that later on. Let's get to the equilux and get it out of our way. The equilux is incorrectly defined as the cycle when light and night seasons are evenly distributed within one 24-hour period, or 12 hours of light and 12 hours of darkness. One big problem is man does not consider the two twilights, which contain light and are integral with the light season, according to our Creator. A very serious problem with this event utilized for determining time is that it has very inconsistent characteristics, causing it to be exceedingly inaccurate. And there's a study that it's named the Equilux Deception that is going to be available in a little while. Charlene is going to be doing that. When light travels through the atmosphere, the refraction is very similar to when light travels through a prism. The atmospheric humidity can cause the light traveling through it to be inconsistent and bend into unexpected directions. This inconsistency can cause the equilux to be 4 days out of sync around the world. For more information, please ask for the article written from Pine River Observatory under the heading, The Tekufah Controversy. But I will say Charlene is going to be covering this in the future. She's going to be covering it in detail, and it's extremely, extremely good. I highly recommend you here to listen to her talk on the equilux. Yahuwah is not an Elohim of inconsistency, nor does he shoot from the hip and hope all goes well. Quite the contrary, Yahuwah is actually extremely accurate in everything he does. And equilux cannot promote a united bride. Very, very important statement right there. A united bride who will worship Yahuwah on his set-apart appointments, upon which he promised specifically to dwell with us. In Isaiah 14, we learn of the adversary's intention of usurping our worship intended for Yahuwah for himself. Isaiah 14:12. How you have fallen from the heavens, O Hillel, son of the morning. You have been cut down to the ground, you who laid low the Gentiles. Verse 13. For you have said in your heart, let me go up to the heavens. Let me raise my throne above the stars of El. Let me sit in the mount of meeting, which is the Moedim, the feasts and festivals, on the sides of the north. Let me go up above the heights of the clouds. Let me be like the Most High. Ha-Satan is here declaring he will control the Mount of Meeting, or Yahuwah's Moedim. Right here we read of the adversary's intent to usurp control of Yahuwah's Moedim, or the Mount of Meeting. What more efficient way to usurp the Moedim from Yahuwah than to convince and deceive mankind into observing Yahuwah's feasts on a counterfeit schedule? The adversary's counterfeit worship calendar, reflections of his Garden of Eden message. And remember there that the adversary in the Garden of Eden, he mixed in a little bit of truth with his deception. Well, he He cannot stop doing that. He continues to this day. The father of deception tolerates if we must observe the Moedim, as long as we observe them on his counterfeit calendars. These counterfeit calendars facilitate the adversary in usurping our righteous intention of worshiping our Creator. Counterfeit calendars redirect our heartfelt worship to the father of deceptions. Satan has redesigned and declared the lunation of the moon peripheries to be only fractionally off from Yahuwah's Shaneh months. They are only fractionally out of sync with the designated time frames created and imposed by Yahuwah. The word camouflage comes to mind here. And I'd like to point out that word Shaneh. That is the word for year. It's used around, I can't remember the exact number, but I believe it's 879 times in the Old Testament. The root word for that word Shaneh, the root word has a definite connotation to the number 12. So the root of this Shaneh year is number 12. That goes for your 12 months. And again, it's used about 879 times. That is a far cry from the number 13. Again, the adversary has attempted everything in his arsenal to deceive Yahuwah's people from paying allegiance to their Creator and Redeemer. What we do with this information will determine our future. So it becomes quite important to know what the scriptures declare as the authentic beginning of Yahuwah's worship year, the feasts and the festivals, as written in Leviticus 23. A closer look at Tekufah, and that is one style of a sundial or sun clock there. Pretty big one by the looks of it. I wish that was in my backyard. What is the actual Tekufah? An equinox is an astronomical event in which the plane of the Earth's equator passes through the center of the sun, which occurs twice each year, around the 20th of March and 23rd of September. On an equinox, day and night are of approximately equal duration all over the planet. They are not exactly equal. However, due to the angular size of the sun and atmospheric refraction. To avoid this ambiguity, the word equilux is sometimes used to mean a day in which the durations of light and darkness are fairly equal. More about the spring equinox. The spring equinox and the fall equinox, or autumnal equinox, are the only days of the year when the sun rises from due east and sets at due west. I'm going to read that again. When the sun rises from due east and sets at due west. So that sun has carved a perfect arc across the sky. It does not deviate from that arc whatsoever. A number of factors can influence the length of daylight experienced in any given area, and the precisely equal days and nights actually fall slightly ahead of the spring equinox and just after the fall equinox. Two people standing at equal distance from the equator would experience days and nights of the same length, however. At Tekufah, the sun rises due east and follows a perfect arc setting due west, measurable on a sundial over the length of the equator within one 24-hour cycle. Any deviation from this perfect arc is measurable on a sundial by the visibility of a shadow on a properly installed sundial. A Tekufah, or equinox, consists of basically 4 identities. The first one is the earth. That's our vantage point from which we view this thing. Number 2 is light. This is the light that facilitates the shadow. And in him was Chai, and the Chai was the light of men. John 1:4. Number 3 is the sun itself. Number 4 is the Mazzaroth stars. And it's the Mazzaroth constellations that houses the very specific place for the sun as a home base. It's where it starts and returns back to that exact same spot. And you'll find that in Ecclesiastes 1 verse 6. This combination of celestial identities permits a visible sign necessary for man to determine time as designated in the scriptures of Yahuwah. Please note, this combination of identities, approved and designed by Yahuwah, prevents man from identifying one celestial creation of Yahuwah for worship purposes. Yahuwah has purposely built in a preventative maintenance situation, a combination of celestial identities to prevent sun worship. Let us praise Yahuwah for his infinite wisdom. Hallelujah. Yahuwah didn't just give us a command and tell us not to do it. He gave us ways, and he purposely created systems that if we follow his word, we will not be worshiping the sun, we will not be worshiping the moon. And he has built these systems of preventative maintenance into his system of worship. And if we just have to listen to him, we have to read his words. And if we follow his words, we will follow the correct path. Noting the asterisk on the last slide about the shadow, there are numerous types of sundials and sun clocks. We're not going to go into details in this study. The Tekufah conditions. Once again, I'm repeating this again because this is what we need to know. This is very, very important. This brings absolute accuracy. This can only happen on one day in the spring and one day in the fall. The sun rises due east and sets due west without deviation. During the Tekufah sign event, on one style of a sundial, there will be no shadow on the face of the sundial during a few minutes while the sun is directly overhead. On another type of sundial, with the same celestial conditions, the shadow will demarcate a perfectly straight line during the Tekufah sign. This type will expose a curved shadow line deviating from the perfect straight line before and after the Tekufah sign. Now let's look at Yaakov from the Messianic Testament. Yaakov 1:16. And remember, he wrote this after Yahusha was dead. I don't know the exact years, but it was after Yahusha had died. And listen to what he says. Do not go astray, my beloved brothers. Every good gift and every perfect gift is from above, coming down from the Father of lights, with whom there is no change, nor shadow of turning. Now we're going to look at this phrase very, very carefully. Okay, you see on the left side of your screen, there's the east. On the right side is a west marker, and you're going to see an arc. Goes from east to west, and you will note it is a shadow arc. The next one is going to be a shadow arc again, but on the other side. Those two lines represent the day of the Tekufah on either, or I should say, represent the days on either side of the Tekufah. You'll see the arc. That shadow is deviating from the straight line. Now I'm going to show you the straight line, straight through. That pink line started due east and settled due west. It did not arc, it did not deviate at all from center. This verse is a clear reference to determining the Tekufah sign by the design of measuring a deviation of the shadow from a straight line format. Now we're going to look a little bit closer to Yaakov. The word turning, G5157, the word is trope. It's used once in the Messianic Testament. Here's the word, G5157, trope, a turning of the heavenly bodies. Thayer's lexicon, a turning of the heavenly bodies. The heavenly bodies that Yaakov is identifying are the Mazzaroth stars, the orbs of the sun and the earth. Yaakov is recognizing the warning of us, and warning us of the change from the solar-based calendar of former times to the lunar solar calendar change, which slowly crept into the temple worship system. The system of worship in the Second Temple era, the Hasmonean Maccabean era, saw a change of solar-based calendar worship practices evolving to a lunar-based lunar solar calendar from Babylon. And I'd like to say that that solar-based calendar is the Melchizedek blood-ratified covenant calendar that is seen throughout the scriptures. If only we had our eyes opened to see it and read the words. And hopefully Charlene and I will be able to reveal to you this calendar language. Yaakov is advising us to be aware that Yahuwah does not change. So if Yahuwah does not change, how did that different calendar system come into the Second Temple era? Yahuwah's system of worship always was and always will be based upon the Mazzaroth, where the Tekufah facilitates the exchange of years. This system produces a shadow which can be accurately traced to expose a perfectly straight, or in contrast, a disappearing shadow sign. And that sign is referenced to Genesis 1:14. Yaakov is exonerating the covenant calendar of the Old Testament worship system, seen thoroughly revealed in the flood account of Noah. Comparison of equinox timing for 2016 and 2018. Equinox can occur at any time of the day season or night season. The next few slides are for those that do not have a sundial and, 2, intend on using NASA information to determine the Tekufah date. The point of concern is what to do when the actual Tekufah moment occurs between midnight and dawn. Yahuwah's time does not begin until dawn, causing a possible different dating situation. We're going to go into more detail in this. The March equinox in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, Saturday, March 19, 2016. Now, if you look a little bit to your right, you'll see it was adjusted on the Universal Coordinated Time, and it's on Sunday, March 20. This is your date change example. And when you're using NASA's information, this becomes very confusing if you don't know the rules, or if you don't know when Yahuwah's day starts. Please note the time that is recorded for this Tekufah occurrence. It is 4:30 a.m. UTC. Okay, March 19. 10:30 p.m. This is when it was recorded as being in Calgary in 2016. This is before midnight. And we must remember what happens at midnight. Rome has declared that our days, our 24-hour periods change at midnight. So note this March 19 time frame is 10:30 p.m. Man's date change is at midnight. That's 24 hours, midnight to midnight, Roman reckoning. So they declared, when they changed the Tekufah to universal time, they declared it to be March 20, 4:30 a.m. That is after midnight, and that is before dawn. There's your dawn marker, your pink with the blue on the outside. March 20 begins at dawn, not midnight, on Yahuwah's covenant calendar. So we have to be very, very careful about our dating. When we look on the left box where it says March 19, and we have to ask ourselves, did the midnight change the 24-hour period? Not according to Yahuwah. That March 19 did not change until dawn. Same graphic, 2016. The Tekufah moment is declared between midnight and dawn, then a deliberate date calculation adjustment is necessary. Your time zone location on this earth is important. Let's compare year and dates. 2018. The vernal equinox in Calgary was on Tuesday, March 20, 2018, and it was at 10:15 a.m. Mountain time. Greenwich Universal Coordinated Time, it says it was on Tuesday, March 20, 2018 at 6:15 or 4:15 p.m. So there was no change there. There was not a problem because there was no problem with the Roman reckoning day starting at midnight. So this does not have to be adjusted. And there's the same chart again. The dawn start, this is March 20, and the Tekufah, the equinox, March 20 at 10:15 a.m. Mountain Time. And then their universal time, March 20 at 4:15 p.m. So there's not a problem here. This time it was just fine and there was no adjustment necessary. Yeah, no adjustment. Where is Tekufah located in the scriptures? And you might want to get out your writing pad and write down these verses. Exodus 34:22. And perform the festival of weeks for yourself, of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the festival of gathering at the turn of the year. And that is Tekufah. We've had it translated in English as turn of the year. 1 Samuel 1:20. And it came to be at the turn of days, Tekufah, that Hannah conceived and bore a son and called his name Shemuel, because I have asked Yahuwah for him. 2 Chronicles 24:23. And it came to be at the turn of the year, that's Tekufah, that the army of Aram came up against him. And they came into Yehuda and Jerusalem and destroyed all the rulers of the people from among the people and sent all their spoil to the sovereign of Damascus. Psalms 19:6. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit, see Tekufah, to the other end, and not is hidden from its heat. We have just read the 4 places where the term Tekufah is used in the scriptures. And just to remind you that Tekufah is equinox. Let's address the first text noted. And perform the festival of weeks for yourself, of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and the festival of ingathering at the turn of the year, Tekufah. Again, turn of the year, Tekufah. This Tekufah, turn of the year, is marking the second Tekufah of the year. When? Around September 22, Gregorian, which needs to be adjusted according to one's location on this earth. The fall festivals are centered around, but not calculated by, the autumn Tekufah, when the year begins to have less late season and more night season. This is the end of the agricultural season, hence the Feast of the Harvest. Let's look again at the 2018 covenant calendar on the first of the 7th month. This is what we just talked about in the last verse. September 17. The Festival of Trumpets occurs, heralding or trumpeting the arrival of the autumnal Tekufah on September 22. Here we see the Feast of Trumpets heralding the coming Tekufah. And that's on the right-hand side. The 22nd of September is the Tekufah, or equinox. Trumpets also informs us of the Day of Atonement on September 26, and following that, the Feast of Tabernacles on October 1. And on the 26th is the Solemn Assembly Sabbath for the Day of Atonement. Now let's look at the second verse seen with Tekufah written therein. 1 Samuel 1:20. And it came to be at the turn of days, or Tekufah, that Hannah conceived and bore a son, and called his name Shemuel, because I have asked Yahuwah for him. We understand this to be the time frame for Passover. Note verse 21, yearly slaughtering. Hannah, in extreme agony, had been praying for a child. That prayer was heard and granted approval by Yahuwah. We then learned that at the event of the Tekufah, or equinox, Hannah produced the child known to us as Samuel. Yahuwah incorporated the Matzeroth-based Moedim in the birth timing of Yitzhak, or Isaac, in Genesis 17:21, chapter 18:14, and 21:2. You will read about this. This is another example of many set-apart Moed markers by which Yahuwah guided the nation of Israel. Elkanah knew Hannah, and 9 months later, at the start of the year, the Tekufah, she was with child, Samuel, and preparing to give birth just before Passover. Coincidence? Not a chance. Investigating more verses on Tekufah. 2 Chronicles 24:23. And it came to be at the turn of the year, the Tekufah, that the army of Aram came up against him. And they came into Yehuda and Jerusalem and destroyed all the rulers of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the sovereign of Damascus. This text is speaking about the spring Tekufah, or equinox, and we will be further verified when we look at another word which helps verify these concepts. So we'll be coming back to that verse. Let's look at Psalms 19:6. Its rising is from one end of the heavens, and its circuit, the Tekufah, to the other end, and naught is hidden from its heat. verification of the celestial combination which ushers in the Tekufah. Psalms 19:6, one more time. Its rising, the sun, is from one end of the heavens, that would be the starting point within the stars of the Mazzaroth, and its yearly circuit, the Tekufah, to the other end, and naught is hidden from its heat. This is one loaded text. From one point in the Mazzaroth, 365 plus cycles later, returning to the same basic point within the Mazzaroth. This point demands much more comment, but for this study it will suffice. But we will be looking at this topic very, very much in detail in the next months with our studies. The Mazzaroth is the one unit of 12 constellations as mentioned in Job 9:9, 38 verses 31 to 33, and chapter 41 verse 1. The Leviathan is the largest constellation. What celestial combination of identities is given precedence over the orb of the sun? Let's read. Psalms 19:1. The heavens, which includes the Mazzaroth, are proclaiming the esteem of El, and the expanse is declaring the work of his hand. Day to day pours forth speech, and night to night reveals knowledge. And that knowledge is within each Mazzaroth constellation. There is no speech, and there are no words. Their voice is not heard. Their line has gone out through all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them, which is the Mazzaroth, he set up a tent for the sun. Although the sun is highly respected, it is subordinate to the Mazzaroth. What is the Mazzaroth? If there is someone here that's listening and does not understand what the Mazzaroth are, that is the 12 constellations, or the 12 major constellations in the sky. The Mazzaroth is the complete and total story of the plan of salvation written in the sky that passes by us every 24 hours. The adversary cannot tamper with those pictures. He cannot do anything with them. You do not have to speak a certain language to read those pictures. Anybody that can look up in the sky will be able to tell these pictures. Will it take some training? Yeah, it takes a little bit of knowledge and attention to learn how to read the stars. I would advise you to read a book called Witness of the Stars by something Bullinger. I forget the initials, by Bullinger. That is an extremely, extremely good introduction to the Mazzaroth. And he will show you how the full and complete plan of salvation, starting from Genesis right till Revelation 22, is written in the sky. Okay, back to this on the screen here. The Mazzaroth is nothing less than the second witness to the scriptures, which the dragon cannot touch nor tamper with his evil intentions. The Mazzaroth consists of the 12 constellations, which relates the basic visual story of salvation written in the stars from Genesis 1 to Revelation 22:21. See Revelation 12:1. And our next week's study is going to be on Revelation 1, and it is going to be an eye-opener. Okay, back to the Tekufah. When the sun has achieved a full circuit, that is 365 cycles, within the Mazzaroth, the Tekufah, or spring equinox, once again occurs, resetting the start of Yahuwah's Kodesh, set-apart feast and festival, covenant calendar. How do we know which Tekufah is the start of Yahuwah's Kadosh year? Exodus 12:1. And Yahuwah spoke to Moshe and to Aharon in the land of Mitzrayim, saying, This month is the beginning of months for you. It is the first month of the year for you. Today you are going out in the month Abib, that is the greening. Abib, from an unused root, meaning to be tender or green in the young ear of grain. The name of the month of Abib or Nisan. In the KJV, it has Abib, ear or green ears of corn. Brown Driver Biggs also adds month of Exodus and Passover, March or April. Yahuwah gave Moshe the descriptive word Abib for the first month of the year by reason of the greening of the agricultural produce. It is this time of year that the Tekufah terminates and consequently resets the start of the year. Is there more scriptural support for Tekufah? Yes, we have more support. Yahuwah would not let us down. We are going to look at another word connected to Tekufah. The word is teshuvah, and I'm sure we've all heard this word. H8666, a reoccurrence, an answer, return, completion of a year, return of a year. At the return, construct, answer or reply. For a celestial identity to teshuvah, this means to travel one direction for a time and then make a full 180-degree change of direction, returning to the original location. We will look at some of the verses where teshuvah is used. There are other places also, but not in this context of time. Another context this word is used in is when a person turns their life around and returns to Yahusha. When they stop their futile life on this world and turn 180 degrees and begin to build a life with Yahusha, they have teshuvah in their life. They have turned around and are going an opposite direction, returning to their Creator. Hallelujah. But we are not searching that topic. Today, for the word teshuvah, we will look into the time aspect. 2 Samuel 11:1. And it came to be at the turn of the year, teshuvah, at the time sovereigns go out to battle, that David sent Joab and his servants with him and all Yisrael, and they destroyed the children of Ammon and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem. 1 Kings 20:22. And the prophet came to the sovereign of Yisrael and said to him, Go strengthen yourself, and know and see that what you should do. For at the turn of the year, or teshuvah, the sovereign of Aram is coming up against you. And verse 26, and it came to be at the turn of the year, teshuvah, that Ben-Hadad mustered the Arameans and went up to Aphek to fight against Israel. And 1 Chronicles 20 verse 1. And it came to be at the turn of the year, teshuvah, at the time sovereigns go out to battle, that Joab led out the power of the army and destroyed the land of the children of Ammon and came and besieged Rabbah. But David remained at Jerusalem, and Joab smote Rabbah and overthrew it. And the final one is 2 Chronicles 36:10. And at the turn of the year, teshuvah, sovereign Nebuchadnezzar sent and brought him to Babel with the valuable utensils from the house of Yahuwah, and made Sidkiyahu, Jehoiakim's brother, sovereign over Yehuda and Jerusalem. You may have noticed the blue highlighted words above. Why? Let's look once more at the verse below containing the word Tekufah, which was only lightly touched upon earlier. So we're going to read this verse once again. First or Second Chronicles 24:23. And it came to me at the turn of the year, Tekufah, that the army of Aram came up against him, and they came into Yehudah and Jerusalem, and destroyed all the rulers of the people from among the people, and sent all their spoil to the sovereign of Damascus. There's that word Tekufah. Are you saying that Tekufah and Teshuvah mean the same thing? No, it's not quite like that. Tekufah very specifically references the actual celestial event. Does that mean the timing of the equinox here? Yes. Tekufah identifies the actual equinox and the positioning of the sun in the Mazzaroth. Teshuvah references or describes very basically the type of action within the celestial event, which Scripture uses to point accurately to the springtime of the year. Does that mean the first day of spring here? Teshuvah is not actually the first day of spring, but very close to it, say early springtime. The difference is similar to saying Richard's 68 Mustang Shelby GT 500 KR. Liken that to a Tekufah because it is highly specific and accurately described. Or optionally, we could just say Richard's car, and we could compare that to Teshuvah because it just gives us a general description. Both are speaking of the same object when the context is time. It is just that Tekufah is much more specific and highly accurate. Hopefully we understand the similarity of meanings and concepts between the word Tekufah and Teshuvah a little better. We can now compare all the verses and know very assuredly that the time for the kings to go out to war is in the springtime after the winter has passed. Springtime, Tekufah, the greening of Abib, Passover and unleavened bread. Now, when we read about the Tekufah completing its circuit in the Mazzaroth, and we read about that being the end of the year, we can be very certain that Yahuwah clearly gave us a super definitive event to proclaim the end of the year. Where is it? In the Shemayim, the heavens? Yes, Yahuwah has declared the end of his Kodesh festival covenant calendar as the Tekufah. This is clearly seen in Genesis 1. Genesis 1:14. And Elohim said, "Let lights come to be in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and appointed times, and for days and years." What lights are being referenced here? The Hebrew words Tekufah and Teshuvah are defining a point in time when the realization of a point of direction change is recognized. Yahuwah has determined that precisely on the spring Tekufah, at the Abib greening, is the point upon which his Kadosh Moedim, the feasts and festivals year, terminates and restarts. Yahuwah instructed Moshe of this particular point in Exodus 12:1 and 2 and chapter 13, verse 4. Recap. The four celestial identities that culminate to form a Tekufah are 1, the Mazzaroth constellations, that's the stars. The light emitted from the sun, which facilitates a shadow. The sun is the orb itself, which declares accurate positioning. And the earth, that's our vantage point for measuring purposes. Question. Have you observed any information here pertaining to the moon? Mario, have you seen the moon?
No moon here.
Thank you. Is there any place where Yahuwah gave instruction to Moshe to observe the moon to determine the start of the year?
Not that I know of.
No, you're right. Taking ourselves to task. Next, we will examine a Tekufah chart for 2014. Will you be able to notice a mistake on this chart due to the increase of new information and knowledge since that time? Hint. A light season must be part of the equation to observe the celestial Tekufah sign event. And it is a sign. The task. It must be determined if the Tekufah occurred within that 24-hour period. Then and only then can the end of the year be proclaimed. Does that shadow alter itself or not? I praise Yahuwah that his mercy endureth forever. He holds our hand even when we are stumbling, picks us up, guiding us on our journey. Where is the Tekufah sign observation light season on this chart? Okay, I'm going to bring your eyes down to the center of the page where it says vernal equinox, and you see that yellow lightning bolt. I am the guilty one. I made this chart because I didn't understand things fully, and I declared that the 20th was the start of the new year. But because I have learned things, I now understand that the Tekufah has to be observed to declare the next day. So after the 20th on this chart, it should have been the day of observing the Tekufah sign, when you watch the shadow to declare what the shadows do, whether they arc or whether they go straight. So that is the mistake right there. That is the mistake. This is the problem area, and it has been corrected. And you'll see on the little circle in the middle, on the a little lower, I had 10 interim days, and that's not quite correct because it should have been 9. The Tekufah sign observation light season. We need to locate it. What light season was the Tekufah sign observed on? It was observed on the 20th in the light season. That is the final day of the year. When you observe that shadow or non-shadow, whichever type of system that you have, when you observe that straight line, that is the day of the Tekufah. That is the Tekufah sign. That is the final day of the year, and it is the next day. That is the first day of the year. So that March 20 should have been the Tekufah sign. The 24-hour cycle should have been reserved to observe the Tekufah sign as the last day of the year. It was not the first day. And I thank Yahuwah for his mercy. Praise Yahuwah for his patience with those of us who are slow to learn and make mistakes.
Amen. Amen.
Here is one of my favorite verses. Let me instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Let me counsel you. My eye be upon you. I'm so thankful for this verse and his mercy. You know, to let you. I'm going to insert Yahuwah's names in there. Let Yahuwah instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. Let Yahuwah counsel you. Yahuwah's eye be upon you. let's look at some calendar calculations. Okay, I'm going to have to go a little bit slow here because there's a lot of things happening. This is Passover 2018 Covenant Calendar Calculations. March 20, 10:15 a.m. The Tekufah is determined. The shadow sign is noted. The next 24-hour cycle begins the new year. There is your Tekufah observation light season on the 20th. Dawn then comes along, and as we know, the dawn starts Yahuwah's days, and this is Yahuwah's blood-ratified covenant calendar year beginning on the 21st. It is Abib, the greening. And there is your Passover, and it was the preparation of the Pesach, John 19:14, usually around April 3 every year. There is the first unleavened bread Sabbath. Okay, now it gets a little bit more complicated. 2018 calendar. This is a luni-solar comparison chart. There's your new moon. The new moon is on the 18th of March. There's your second new moon. That gold line is your Tekufah. The Tekufah to the new moon arrow. Yahuwah says the Tekufah ends the year. Man declares the sliver moon ends the year. There are 25 cycles in between them. To which year do they belong? And you'll note that the different phases of the moon are also used. So we need to make a decision. Are we going to believe what we have been taught, that the new moon is what starts the year? Or are we going to believe the words of the scriptures, the Hebrew definitions? Here is the Tekufah light season. That is the day where you observe the shadow signs. There is on the 21st at dawn is your covenant calendar New Year's cycle. And again, that is when Abib starts according to the covenant calendar. Again, there is your covenant calendar Passover on the 3rd of April. Your covenant calendar unleavened bread Shabbats. Okay, at the top, that purple arrow that's flashing in front of your eyes. These 25 cycles after the Tekufah, are they actually non-accountable phantom cycles as declared? Here again, same chart, just more comments. There's that Tekufah to the new moon on the right side. These 25 phantom cycles, do we add them to the new lunar year, making the new moon a false start? Or do we account for them on Yahuwah's previous year, making the Tekufah null and void? This is your choice, because we're taught by many different organizations that the new moon starts the feasts and festivals and starts the years. But the scriptures tells us that the Tekufah does. And in between the Tekufah, 2018, and the new moon are these 25 days. And we must decide whether they are accountable or if we can accept that Yahuwah made something that is non-accountable. The luni-solar calendar declares these days between the Tekufah and the new moon as being non-counted days. Yet Yahuwah held me accountable for my sins on these same days. How can there be a double standard which conflicts with Yahuwah's word and yet carries the consequence of death? Isaiah 55:11. So is my word that goes forth from my mouth. It does not return to me empty, but shall do what I please and shall certainly accomplish what I sent it for. So I ask you again, those 25 days that we are told that we do not count, are they going to return to our Creator empty? Are they non-accountable days? If we add them on to the new moon, that means the previous new moon doesn't fit or is not correct. If we add them on to Yahuwah's Tekufah, after the Tekufah, then we're making the Tekufah null and void. In other words, we are not agreeing with what is written in the scriptures. So it becomes very, very serious. Has anyone told you that those interim cycles between the Tekufah and the new moon are not to be accounted for? Would this mean that Yahuwah created a void? 25 voids this year alone? Has your Creator made anything that does not exist nor can be accounted for? Friends, the time has come to reassess our belief structure on the start of the year topic. Next slide is another idea to put forth that might disturb you a little. Okay, a lot. It identifies Hasatan's counterfeit for the Tekufah. Okay, here is the 2018 covenant calendar chart, and we're going to have a counterfeit comparison. If you look on the very left side of your screen, you'll see the gray vertical bar at the 18. That is the new moon on the 18th. And on the right, just to the right of it, you'll see Tekufah. That's the Tekufah observation day. ReformedJudaism.org. This is their lunar solar calendar Passover. That starts on the evening of the 30th. There's that yellow bar straight up and down. Note, Reformed Judaism discarded the moon and is now determining the new year by the equinox on the 17th of March. Why? Because they needed one more cycle before their Passover, which the new moon cannot provide. The sliver new moon only provides 13 days, not the 14 required by scriptures. We see a calculated manipulation. And I would like you to go sometime when you review this slide, or review this study, take your finger and count the days from where you see that X on the left-hand side of your screen. Count those days up to the 30th of March. There is only 13 days there. So either they have to disobey the command for the Passover to be on the 14th of the first month, or they have to alter their calendar. It becomes very, very serious. There is only 13 days only from the 18th to the 29th. That is, or the evening of the 29th, or the evening of the 30th, I'm sorry. They cannot allow a Passover on the seventh day Sabbath. That is part of what they believe. That's one of their rules. So how do they get around this? How do they get 14 days before that seventh day Sabbath? They have to go back to the equinox. And there is your Reformed Judaism Abib month, starting before the Tekufah. Their first day of Abib will be prior to Yahuwah's Tekufah. My question to you, does that agree with the scriptures? And here we're going to look at Equinox, an option with Yahuwah. And I want you to remember, I'm only giving you a very small glimpse of the Equinox. Of the Equilux. Charlene is going to be digging in this with vengeance, and she's going to dig into details, and it's going to be very, very good. I look forward to the time when her study is fully finished and she's able to present it. Okay, Equilux. This is the adversary's counterfeit. And you'll see that on March 17 on the left-hand side. That is the Equilux. That is what they call the equal day and equal night, depending on the humidity and the temperature of the atmosphere. So it's extremely variable. There is your new moon on the left-hand side. That is on the 18th of March. There is Yahuwah's Tekufah, the dawn of the Tekufah, and the Tekufah observance day. That's on the 20th. There's your covenant calendar New Year's cycle. That starts on the 21st of March, according to the covenant calendar.
At dawn.
Go ahead, Mario.
At dawn.
Yes, thank you. Equilux New Day or New Year Day is on March 17, before the new moon and before the Tekufah. Yahuwah tells us through the scriptures that the Tekufah is the catalyst that closes out the old year. Do you believe Yahuwah or not? And Equilux, an option with Yahuwah, number 2. Again, there is the adversary's counterfeit on the left-hand side, March 17, Equilux. This is the counterfeit Abib. And I say counterfeit because it does not start at the Tekufah according to the scriptures. There is the new moons. And there is the Tekufah again, and the Tekufah observance day. And at dawn, the covenant calendar New Year's cycle starts on the 21st, once again. Okay, this is so important. Charlene is going to bring this out greatly. Shall we too disregard the 2 twilights and adopt a variable refracted light season, which is fully dependent upon temperature and humidity? How long is an Equilux month? And this statement about disregarding the 2 twilights, Yahuwah has declared the twilights as part of the light season. And yet man, when they declare an Equilux, they disregard the 2 twilights. So they're not even regarding part of the full light season according to the scriptures. And yet they're declaring that the year starts with that. How long is an Equilux month? I don't know that, otherwise I would give you the answer. For more information on the Equilux deception, ask for the study with the same name. And Charlene, I'm looking forward to when that can be presented, because it is good. Next, what about this new moon that we hear about? If a person researches into the Hebrew text, the words new moon, as found in our present received text scriptures, cannot be found. The words new moon, promoting allegiance given to the moon, simply do not exist in the original Hebrew script. The words new moon have been infused into our modern scriptures. The Masoretic rabbis saturated their belief patterns into their version of the scriptures, which is where we get our many editions of the scriptures today. If you are serious about study and want to follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth, the time has come for you to investigate this malicious deception. All it takes is a desire to study for truth. The information is readily available to you for the asking. The summary according to Yahuwah's scriptures. The spring Tekufah is the celestial point upon which Yahuwah's Kadosh set apart Moedim, the feast of the festivals, times begin and terminate. I had a hard time getting through that sentence. The Tekufahs are formed by 4 celestial identities, which prevents worship of any one of Yahuwah's creation. Coincidence? No, it was formed by intelligent design. The 4 celestial identities which form the Tekufahs are Matzaroth, that's the stars, the light rays from the sun itself, and the earth. The 24-hour cycle after the Tekufah is the first cycle of Abib, the greening or the spring, is the point upon which the 14-cycle count to Passover begins. How does one determine the New Year's Day once the Tekufah has been observed? If one acknowledges the Tekufah determined by NASA, which is reduced down to actual minutes, then the timing of this system must be adjusted to Yahuwah's covenant calendar format. And I should specify dawn on there. Write that down. The Gregorian format does not align with Yahuwah's covenant calendar. The covenant calendar is very thoroughly documented within the scriptures. Example, NASA declares a Tekufah to occur at 3:30 a.m., March 20. What cycle of the month does this equate to on Yahuwah's covenant calendar format? Here we are, adjusting human determination over Yahuwah's covenant calendar. This is review. NASA, Tekufah, 3:30 a.m., March 20. 3:30 is still in the night darkness. NASA uses Roman reckoning to determine the 24-hour cycle. This means the new 24-hour cycle begins at midnight. Yahuwah's 24-hour cycles of the week start at dawn, not sunrise. There are 36 accounts of this in the scriptures. This means that under NASA's system for determining time, March 20 has started at midnight, approximately 6 hours before dawn's first light on Yahuwah's eternal timepiece, the Matzaroth. Therefore, when NASA has declared the Tekufah to occur on March 20 at 3:30 a.m., the Tekufah actually occurred at 3:30 a.m. on March 19, when converted over to covenant calendar time. Why March 19? Because the first light of dawn prior to the sunrise has not occurred. The dawn event facilitates changing the date from the 19th to the 20th of March. In the first cycle of the year, this factor becomes ultra important. If the Tekufah is declared by NASA to occur in the Erev, twilight mixture, after sunset, or any time up to midnight, when the date declared by NASA, then the date declared by NASA will not need date adjustment to be in alignment with Yahuwah's covenant calendar. Step 2. As we well know, the name March is not recognized in the scriptures. March has human origins, and it also must be converted to proper scriptural terms. Time in the last month before the Tekufah is simply the 12th month. The first month of the year after the Tekufah, according to the scriptures, is given the descriptive word Abib. The meaning of Abib is the greening. This is a description of what is occurring at this time. For scriptural references on Abib, please see Exodus 13:4, chapter 23:15, chapter 34:18, and Deuteronomy 16, verse 1. Yes, we also frequently see the name Nisan given to the first month, but this is not seen in nor recognized by the scriptures. Step 3. When the visible shadow briefly withdraws, or it strikes a perfectly straight line, that depends on which type of sundial is used, that specific cycle is then determined as the Tekufah sign cycle. This cycle of no shadow of turning, see James 1:17, is the final cycle of Yahuwah's covenant calendar year. Following the cycle of no shadow of turning, after the eyelashes of dawn's light has exposed itself above the dark horizon, this then is determined as the first cycle of Yahuwah's covenant calendar. And if you look in Job 3:9 and 41:18, it says very clearly the eyelashes of dawn. I guess that depends on what translation you have. This specific day is the first count of 14 for the festival of Passover. And a reminder notice, if the actual Tekufah event occurs in the night season when the shadow cannot be observed, the following light season from dawn to dawn is then considered the light season for observing the Tekufah sign, and it is the final year. The following cycle after that will then be Yahuwah's New Year cycle. Is it any wonder why this next verse was preserved by Yahuwah? Make us to know, so our days, that we number them, and we will frame a heart unto wisdom. And yes, that is very old English, so let's read it down below. Teach us to number our days, and let us bring the heart to wisdom. And I imagine Dana knows this verse off by heart. Even when he's sleeping, he could probably say it out loud. Can this verse be connected somehow to Luke 11:52? Woe to you, learned in the Torah, because you took away the key of knowledge. You did not enter in yourselves, and those who were entering in you hindered. It is my thoughts, my conclusion, that key of knowledge is the Matzorah, or is the Tekufah. When the Matzoroth-based covenant calendar was switched over to the lunar-based calendar in the Second Temple era, they removed the Tekufah, which is the key to knowledge. And why do I say it's the key to knowledge? Because it is only then, with the Tekufah, that we can align ourselves exactly and perfectly and accurately on Yahuwah's days that he has promised to be with us. And those are the Moedim. If we are worshiping on another day, on another calendar, we will miss out on that knowledge. And that knowledge is the blessings that we gain from attending those feast days on his calendar as he proclaimed. And that will be an exact opposition to the adversary who wants us to worship on his calendar so that he can usurp our worship for himself. Really understanding Psalms 19 verse 12. So teach us to number our days that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Counting principle. Yahuwah's original year has 360 days. When we learn to count out the days to 360, then it is time to be watching for the shadow sign, Genesis 1:14, which will be accomplished at the 365-day mark. This will occur within the same 24-hour period of when the equinox event actually occurred in each individual time zone. When determining the Tekufah, it is important to be aware of man's midnight change of the 24-hour cycle. in comparison to Yahuwah's dawn start to the cycle. A possible adjustment may be needed. If accepting NASA's specified Tekufah determination, your personal time zone must be examined carefully. An adjustment in time and date may be required. An example, does the Tekufah occur near, before, or after midnight? This potentially might create a date change from the Gregorian calendar. Example, does the Tekufah occur before or after dawn, not sunrise? This also could potentially cause a date adjustment. These few items that we need to be aware of are actually quite simple once understood. For the person standing outside their home, looking at the sky and setting up a simple sundial, it is very straightforward. For the person wanting to determine the Tekufah in advance, there is another study available named Equinox equation. This is an advanced study that covers several different scenarios of Tekufah timing in detail. And Charlene has dug into this deep. And when I say it's in detail, believe me, it is in detail. And it takes some very, very serious brain work to go through this and understand it. It's very, very good. It's well worth your time. It's not quite ready yet, but it will be coming to us. Charlene will be delivering this on Covenant Calendar Club. The explicit purpose is to have you fully capable of determining the Tekufah well in advance for your location and time zone. And here's some final questions to ponder. If the moon is our guiding light, then why is it that Yahuwah did not mention the moon in the scriptures until Joseph's dream? Why is it that the moon was not mentioned to Moshe for determining the year? Why is it that new moon does not exist in the Hebrew scriptures? At what point in time do we find recent, solid, datable historic evidence of lunar involvement in the worship of Yahuwah? Hint, in the Qumran scrolls. Where are there commands in the scriptures to observe the lunar system for the worship of Yahuwah? Where do we find a 13th month with a witness written in the scriptures? And here's some final comments. We have seen the scriptural version to terminate the year past and to initiate Yahuwah's new worship year. What we do with it will determine our future. There are several basic systems to guide us through worship. Number one, Yahuwah's set apart, blood ratified, covenant-based calendar directly linked to the Melchizedek administration. This is exposed clearly in the flood account with Noah. It is also clearly documented in the Exodus from Mitzrayim and the Passion Week of Yahusha. Other worship system choices. Number two, the Zadok and Enoch calendars, which are based upon the Dead Sea Scrolls. These calendars place the Dead Sea Scroll information above that of the inspired word of Yahuwah. The dates and appointed times from the Enoch and Zadok calendars cannot find alignment with the documented words of the scriptures. It simply does not exist. To examine this closely, ask for David's Kodesh Lechem and the two different studies on Joshua's Passover in Canaan. Presently, I have rewritten a different version of Joshua's Passover in Canaan. It's looking at it from a little bit different standpoint, a little bit different view, and it is it's solid. It's really going to expose the problems with other calendars. It's not quite finished yet, but it will be coming. Number three, the lunar-based system of worship faces seriously founded accusations leveled against the words new moon. What you do with this information will determine what schedule you worship your Creator on. Zebah and Zalmunna were slain by Gideon upon command from Yahuwah. They were kings of moon-worshipping people. Jericho was also the center of moon worship and was the first identity destroyed by Yahuwah upon Israel entering the promised land. Revelation 12:1 shows the bride of Yahusha, Bethulah of the Mazzaroth, as having placed the lunar system of worship, symbolized by the moon, under her feet. This position exposes complete vanquished authority in utter defeat. And this is a study that we're going to be looking at next Friday night, next preparation night. This is one incredibly good study. I love this one. I'm looking forward to present this. And more on the lunar option. The Metonic cycle, the lunar solar calendar, which surfaced shortly after the sundial incident of Hezekiah, is promoted heavily today among feast observant people. The dragon is not foolish enough to again promote a full lunar calendar, but he has most definitely promoted a combined lunar and solar calendar. This is it. This is some interesting material and some very heavy questions. And now, I guess we can go to some comments or some more questions. May Yahuwah bless you and guide you through eternity.
Amen.
Okay, how do I get stop share?
Questions, anybody? Comments? Let's need some more light in here. Thank you, Joshua.
I would like to comment something while I have a voice. Tim, I was just wondering if there's a possibility we can consider the Equinox next week instead of the woman on the moon, because it kind of goes together with what you had tonight. And also, he mentioned the excuse me, the Equinox equation. That is the study that I'm still trying to massage and do a bit of work on it. And it is a big study, but the Equinox deception, it's pretty much done and only about 50 slides. And I think it would be really good for our students to see that after this presentation. So you can take a vote and let me know.
I'm in full agreement, Charlene. I think it'd be a fantastic study to follow up with.
Anybody else?